You spend hours making a video, but nobody watches it. Why? Because your thumbnail is ruining everything. It doesn't matter how good your content is. If nobody clicks, nobody watches. But don't worry, I'll expose 5 mistakes that are secretly destroying your views. And more importantly, I'll show you how to fix them. Mistake number 1. Your thumbnail is too messy and distracting. When I started making thumbnails, I thought, more equal better. So I crammed everything from a GFX pack into my design, thinking that it looked really good. But in reality, it didn't. Here are some of my first thumbnails, and you can't even tell what's happening. Too much clutter equal instant scroll past. The fix to this is to keep everything simple. A great thumbnail only needs the main subject, which is the focus of the video. A clean background that doesn't steal attention. So if it looks too cluttered, either opt for a simpler one or you can just blur it. Some text, but only if it truly adds value. Otherwise, it's just unnecessary. Then you can add some additional elements, but only if they really add context. You can have minimal elements, but if they're positioned poorly, your thumbnail will still look bad. Which brings us to mistake number 2. Bad composition is ruining your clicks. Composition controls where people look in your thumbnail. If it's off, your design won't feel balanced or visually appealing. There are different composition techniques, but here are the most effective ones for thumbnails. Center composition. This is the easiest method. You just place the subject right in the middle. This works well for showcasing a single element. Next, we have the rule of thirds. You just place your subject on one of these intersecting points. This makes the thumbnail feel more natural and dynamic. Then we have the golden spiral. This is a more advanced technique inspired by nature. It creates a natural flow of attention from the edges to the center. Lastly, we have the triangle composition. This type of composition balances multiple elements into a stable triangular layout, making the image feel structured and dynamic. But even with perfect composition, if your colors are bad, your thumbnail still won't work. This leads us to mistake number 3. Your colors are hurting your clicks. Your color choices make or break your thumbnail. Bad color equal people ignore your video. Let's do a test. Which of these images stands out more? I'll give you 5 seconds. Obviously the brighter one. The same rule applies to thumbnails. If your colors blend in with the rest of YouTube, you disappear. Now let's take another example. Look at these thumbnails. You'll have 5 seconds again. Which one stands out? Actually, none of them. They all blend together, which is a huge problem. Your thumbnail should look different from everything else in your niche. Now, compare that to this Ryan Trahan thumbnail. A simple background with him wearing an orange suit. Super clean and super eye-catching. So here's how to use colors the right way. Contrast is key. Use colors that pop against YouTube's background. You'll also want to match your audience. If you're doing kids content, you'll want to use more bright and saturated colors. If you're doing horror, you'll need to use dark and moody colors. You should also use color psychology to trigger emotions. For example, red triggers a sense of danger, while blue inspires trust and is often used in educational videos. Green is often associated with nature, and orange gives a sense of energy and excitement. But even if your colors are perfect, if your thumbnail doesn't actually represent your video, it will still fail. This is mistake number 4. Your thumbnail doesn't represent the video. A thumbnail creates an expectation, and if your video doesn't deliver on that, people will click off immediately. There are 2 big ways that this can go wrong. Number 1 is clickbaiting. If your thumbnail promises something that your video doesn't deliver, people feel tricked. Not only do they leave instantly, but YouTube punishes your video for a low watch time, and those people will feel betrayed and never come back. Mistake number 2 is not being clear enough. Even if your video is amazing, if your thumbnail doesn't clearly communicate what it's about, people will not click. The fix for this is to be clear, because your thumbnail should instantly show what your video is about. It should also complement your title. They should work together, not repeat the same thing. For example, in this one, I literally wrote thumbnails, so people immediately knew it was a thumbnail tutorial. But even if you follow all these rules, your thumbnail can still look bad if you ignore the last mistake. Mistake number 5. Your thumbnail looks off. It lacks consistency. Look at these 3 thumbnails. What is wrong with them? In thumbnail number 1, we have a real-life person as a subject, and we have a cartoon background. The styles don't match, making it look low effort and fake. In thumbnail number 2, the opposite problem happens. We have a cartoon character on a realistic background. This makes the image feel weird and disconnected. Instead, in thumbnail number 3, the lighting is all over the place. This doesn't look natural at all, so people subconsciously ignore it because it looks super low quality. The fix for this is to keep a consistent style. If your thumbnail is cartoony, make sure everything else matches. elements. You should also match the lighting, so use the same light source for all elements. Lastly, you need to blend everything properly, so adjust your shadows, blur the backgrounds, and ensure the subject feels part of the scene, and not just as if you smashed a PNG on top of a stock image. If you fix these 5 mistakes, I guarantee you your thumbnails will instantly improve, and so will your views. But if you want to go even further, I made a video on how to create viral thumbnails from scratch. Click here to check it out. And now, get out!